Today I'm going to demonstrate how to assemble the miniature train. Once again, remember there's many ways to do anything that I teach. Go ahead and try different ways. I'm going to start out by doing a standard.iam, and I'm going to go ahead and place all my train parts into it. So I need to go ahead and navigate to where my train parts are saved. So right here is the default train parts. Some of these are different than how I demonstrated. This is the train assembled here, but I'm going to go through how to do that. So I'm going to place the train body in, and I can actually place multiple parts in at one time if I want to. So for example, I'm also going to only have one train stack, so I go ahead and hold Control and select it. I'm only going to have one cow catcher, so I can select that. And I'm going to have one hitch peg and one hitch magnet. So I'm going to open up, those are all my one-piece parts, and I'm just going to click to place them in there. Now I like to put all my parts in right away and then deal with them after the fact. If you don't like to do that, you can also place them in when you're ready for them. So now I'm going to go ahead and get my axle peg, and I also need my wheel and my linkage peg. Right there. And I'm going to need 4 of each of those. That's why I selected those ones all together. And I'm going to go ahead and place in my linkage arm. And I need 2 of those. So now that I've got everything in there, I'm going to go ahead and kind of drag this stuff off over here. There's probably some more parts sitting right there. Okay, get those, move them out. And I like to ground the train body. This inventor doesn't ground the first part that comes in, so I ground that first. Now there's a few things that I want to demonstrate as far as the assembly goes. Probably the easiest part is putting that magnet on the back end. So to do that magnet, I'm just going to use constraints. And using the mate constraint, I can pick a center line and a center line. I do not want to pick the individual circle, otherwise they'll pivot on that center line. So I want to get the center line on both of those. Then I can go ahead and pick this surface and mate it to the bottom side of this other surface. I'm just using F4 to go ahead and rotate while I'm in the mate constraint. And I want to pick that surface. I could have also hovered over the surface and waited for my drop down to pop up, and I might demonstrate that later on. I'm going to apply that. Now I can pick that and constrain that center line once again to the center line of the hole. And then I can go ahead and mate the back of this. And to demonstrate, if I want that back surface, I can wait here for it to pop up. Well, it should pop up for me. If it doesn't, I'm just going to rotate around and pick this surface. And that goes ahead and holds that magnet onto the back of the train. Now if I go ahead and move on to the cow catcher, what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow the constraints to get it into place. If I wanted to, I could also use free rotate to move it closer to place. But I'm going to constrain that center line to this hole right here. And you'll notice that it went in there backwards of what I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cancel out. I'm going to drag it out here with that constraint. And I'm going to free rotate. Free rotate is going to temporarily relax my constraints enough that I can rotate it around. And then once I've got it close to what I want, if I escape out of free rotate and grab it, it snaps that constraint back on. Now you'll remember in my other videos, mine does not have this groove in the front. This is the files that came for me, so I went ahead and used those. I'm going to go ahead and constrain this center line to the center line of this hole. And a lot of students will find that if that doesn't snap for them, they've either made the cow catcher wrong or the train body wrong. That tells them that the center lines don't line up for the 2 separate holes. That means they'd want to go back and measure that distance, make sure they did everything correctly. I'm just mating the front of the train to the back of the cow catcher, and I hit apply. The stack is another one that takes a little bit of work. I'm going to go ahead and center line to center line. And once again, it's upside down, so I'm going to cancel out of there. I'm going to drag it up out. I could free rotate it, but I'm going to leave it like this. Makes it just as easy for me to constrain that surface. Now if we had a flat bottom hole, we'd go to the bottom. Since we don't, we're going to go to that circle. I hit apply, cancel, and now I'm going to have to free rotate it. So I select it, hit free rotate, spin it up there. It's close enough that when I go to grab it now, it's going to snap into place. Now if I wanted to keep it from spinning, I could go ahead and put another constraint on it. I'm not too concerned about that at this point. Now to go ahead and start assembling the tires together, what I go ahead and do is I constrain center line to center line, and then I can go ahead and pick this flat surface right here and mate it to, in this case I'm going to hover and wait and see if it pops up for me. Okay, it doesn't want to seem to do these today, but it should have for me. I picked that back side. That takes care of that. I'm going to apply. I'm going to pick center line and go to one of the holes. And then I'm going to pick this face on the train body and this face right here. Now I probably don't want that tight against my train body. Otherwise it's going to go ahead and rub if this was an actual wooden train. So what I do is before I hit enter, I set my offset at 0.1. And that would also work going down the track. So I'm going to go through this a little quicker for a second wheel. I don't think I need to demonstrate every wheel how to do it once you see one of them. And once I get the second wheel done, I'm going to show how to do the linkage arm onto it as well. So zip through those. Whoops, I must have hit cancel on it. Let's jump back in there. And once again, that offset of 0.1. And if you don't set those offsets, you can see how both of these are out. You'll have issues down the road when you go to put your linkage arm on. So you do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to slap a linkage arm on here real quick. So I'm just going to do center line on the linkage arm to center line on that. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I might have to escape out and rotate a little bit so I can easily get my constraints to work. Then I could go ahead and make the backside of this to the top of the little shelf there. I'm going to make it even easier on myself. I'm just going to flush that face with that face right there. Apply, and then to put the little pegs in, it's about as easy as the axle pegs. So I just pick mate, pick the center line of the hole. Notice it went in backwards, so I canceled out there. And I can go ahead and constrain now that I pulled it out. Do another mate constraint between that and that face. That's right how it should look. I'm going to stick another one on the other end. And another common mistake that students will have is that once they're done with this, if they go to move their tires, so let's go ahead and look at this from the right side. I know not everything's in, but if they go to move their tires, this bar won't be level. What that usually means is either their bar is made too long or the tires aren't made quite right. So they'd have to go in and double check all their dimensions. A lot of students will make 3.5 on the inside of the bar, not to centers. So this is the basic procedure to go ahead and assemble the miniature train together. Remember, there's more than one way to do everything. Some people like insert constraints. I just wanted to show with the basic constraints.